Greetings, forums. So, another interesting phenomenon that is supernatural origin, I believe, is I was praying to a commie, a murder victim named Denise Nazin, for over a year before I realized I live in the Twin Cities where the victim of her killer, his first victim, lived. She lived in a suburb of Minneapolis called Excelsior, and Excelsior is the catchphrase of the author and inventor of Spider-Man, Stan Lee, and people nicknamed me Spider-Man. Well, I was praying to her for over a year, Denise Nazin, for over a year, before realizing that I lived in the Twin Cities and Elizabeth Perry was from the Twin Cities, the first victim of Ted Bundy. Well, the interesting thing about that is on a Memorial Day, it was a Memorial Weekend, the beginning of Memorial Weekend. It was a May 26th, can't remember what year actually, but it was May 26th, just the beginning of Memorial Weekend. And I find a military jacket, Fighting Seabees, dated 1969. Elizabeth Perry was murdered in 1969. Very fascinating because she was murdered Memorial Weekend, 1969, and it just happened to be the first day of Memorial Weekend, and I find a Fighting Seabees military jacket. And I went to Golden Valley Humane Society, where she used to work with her father, and I laid my hand on a plaque they have there, currently, dedicated to Elizabeth Potter Perry. And I prayed for her, and I felt her spirit very strongly. And then, while I was at Golden Valley Humane Society, a monk sent me a text about Saint Maria Goretti. Saint Maria Goretti was stabbed to death by a pornography addict. Elizabeth Perry was stabbed to death by a pornography addict. Okay, what are the odds? And I believe these girls were fascists because they want a censorship of the media to outlaw harmful forms of pornography. Well, Benito Mussolini and fascism were always very strongly against pornography. Okay, it does create sometimes vicious, perverted hearts, and it stirs up lust, and that can cause all kinds of problems. Okay, and it can lead a person to become a sexual predator or a serial killer, and I kind of have experienced some of the devastating effects of pornography on the psychology of a child who is exposed to it at an early age. So, at any rate, I was at Golden Valley Humane Society and someone sent me a text about Saint Maria Goretti. She was stabbed to death, as I said. Elizabeth Perry was stabbed to death. And Saint Maria Goretti, she prayed as she was bleeding to death for her killer, that she would be with him in heaven. And while that man was in prison, she appeared to him and she offered him a lily, and it converted him and changed his heart, and he became a devout Christian. But he was not only devoted to Jesus Christ, he was devoted to his victim, Saint Maria Goretti. She wasn't a saint yet, but this man helped her get canonized with the many letters he sent to the Pope. And that Memorial Weekend that I found that jacket, dated the year of Elizabeth Perry's murder, I took a different walk home than usual from the Capitol building, and I stumbled across two war memorials on Memorial Day. And I wasn't looking for war memorials, where over 1,000 names of soldiers that were killed in combat in the Korean War and in the Vietnam War are carved into granite. And I was calling these girls who were killed by this serial killer, I was calling them Capitol Hill Queens for years before knowing that there was a Capitol Hill in the state of Minnesota, or that there's a Capitol Hill outside of Washington, D.C., or that I would soon live near Capitol Hill. And it just so happens to be a place where they sometimes enshrine over 1,000 women that are violently murdered. The Native Americans, one day, for multiple days, put up a different marker that was a red dress with a name on it for over 1,000 women who were violently murdered, enshrined at Capitol Hill. And the first name I read, I kid you not, my ministry will bear no fruit if I am dishonest. The first name I read was Rose Downwind. And when I was in jail, I used to pray to Rose Downwind, who was violently murdered. And I told a Native American there, I told him, I pray to Rose Downwind, and he stopped walking and he looked at me very strangely and said, "That's my cousin. What are the odds?" I believe that I suffer from delusion because I am diagnosed schizoaffective. But I don't believe there's any way all of this could be delusion. There are forces that are at work. And I believe the empire I pray to, I called it Holy Roman Empire, and eventually I discovered Caesar Benito Mussolini as the Caesar of that empire. God bless you.